Hi, Chris Duff over at Serious Land Capital, vacant land funding partner. So today was putting a lot of effort into some tasks that were on the back burner for a few weeks here, specifically in relation to developing a repeatable system for producing generative engine optimization, GEO, and SEO related content, and mainly in the form of articles for both our Serious Land Capital and land funding partners' websites. From a advertising perspective, that definitely has been paying off, arguably the most out of any other kind of direct marketing paradigm that we've been, diving into or exploring over the past couple of years here. So, I know I had commented on this on a previous podcast, but just giving a bit of an update here. Our main website developer had initially produced some long tail keywords for GEO, or I'll say GEO, which is again generative engine optimization results that's specifically in regard to search queries that are made via AI engines that typically most come into play when you consider those, ever prevalent and growing, like Gemini blurbs that will show up when you do a Google search more and more nowadays, but also takes into account what searches are being conducted via ChatGPT, for instance, as well. It's a little, I'd say SEO is potentially like the most jargony type of area when it comes to internet marketing, and just really hard to get kind of a full grasp of it unless you're doing it day in, day out. Even in my minor forays, I'm usually using a consultant to help us out with that. But to avoid some extra, more significant expense in relation to that, we worked with our web dev, who was also an SEO expert, he produced the system, and here's kind of the guidelines in order to produce the content. And then we built out some Claude projects that help us write articles and so forth. But ultimately, what we had to do is develop more keyword generation. So I was really playing around with that and utilizing AI to sort out, okay, what type of tools are available for this keyword gen. And I still think it's a bit of an underdeveloped area, particularly for geo. You have some very well-established players like Ahrefs, who charge an arm and a leg. They're probably like the land.com of the SEO space. This major premium pricing, but they have the most powerful tool to utilize for SEO. And so we were trying to research, okay, what could possibly be good other longer tail keywords and so forth. And it's really not as cut and dry within our industry, just because we're in such a space. Like the search volumes are typically much lower than other more mature or well-established industries. Some industries you might have, 1 million plus searches per month for certain keywords, potentially certainly in the thousands or hundreds. Whereas, when I was trying to search around for things, specifically related to, financing land and so forth, even a little bit more general in relation to what we do as a land funder, some of these keywords just, they weren't even matching as far as, noting 10 searches a month. And so then you try to look at for some keyword suggestions, and, maybe you're finding a bundle that are getting, 20-ish searches per month. So the volume's just not that high, but the people who are searching for those keywords are probably, very highly targeted. And even if you land one of those searches monthly for the particular keyword that you're looking to target, the return could be pretty significant here. But it's been a bit harder to differentiate, okay, which direction should we kind of head in. So you can probably detect some of the hesitancy even as I'm speaking about this, just because, again, I think it's a pretty difficult topic, and complicated regimen, even with like AI assistance and some of these more high powered software tools to really figure out, okay, what's the best approach for geo and SEO, for your particular industry, and which direction should we head in. Uh, to me, I think we're centering in on more of just a volume play and figuring out what works to be able to solidify more in a sniper approach later on. But at the same time, I think a lot of folks who are investing more within geo and SEO, like, volume seems to be the name of the game. I think I remarked in a previous podcast where some of these operators in particular industries, I mean, they might be uploading tens of articles per day, SEO related articles, to really boost their brand presence. Like, it's, especially with these AI tools, or even just, utilizing your own Claude project, for instance, like we do, you can just produce so much content in a way more efficient manner. Whereas, it could have been a full-time job, even a year or a couple of years ago. So the amount of volume that you can push out is just so much more significant, from an efficiency standpoint. So, and based on what we've done so far, even though we haven't done a huge amount of volume, like, the initial burst has been very helpful for us. So ultimately what I delegated to my primary VA is like, okay, we've already produced content for roughly 20 longer tail keywords, at least for our Serious Land Capital website. Let's go ahead and get, like 300 keywords here. So we have a really good bank to use from. And I provided, okay, here's some basic strategies for how to choose the keywords. After I spent, roughly kind of an hour trying to familiarize myself with the process, though, again, I was not that certain about it. This is something could potentially hire a consultant for, but even when I had a consultant, because they don't have like full context of what is, very specific in relation to our industry, and especially how like articles should be worded and so forth, we kept having to go back and refine what we were doing anyway. And that this is always like the Hormozy thing. It's the person with the most context within a business makes the best decisions. So that's why, like, even in some of these topics, I'm not routinely looking at on a day-to-day basis, because I'm the primary decision maker. So I should have the best or the most context across every area of the business to ensure we're not really getting off track for certain things. So that cost me an hour of time to kind of look into SEO or geo key gen. And, even that hour spent ends up generating potentially hundreds of leads for us down the line. To me, that is a worthwhile trade-off, even if I'm, only, let's call it 60 to 65% confident that I was actually on the right track with keyword selection. Again, without kind of showing the details of what I was doing, it's a little hard to indicate. I would just say, you can kind of explore for yourself and figure out, there's so many different directions you can go in. And until you start testing, it's really hard to figure out precisely whether you're on the right track. Ultimately, figured out, let's do like 300 keywords. Let's work with our Claude project, start producing 3 geo articles daily. No, wait. I said weekly to start out with, because I didn't want to be too overwhelming with it. We can probably boost the content over time, especially if we figure out, hey, this is really working. We'll increase the volume, and then 1 SEO article, which typically is a little bit more tricky to write, for our land funding partners website. I'm going to be utilizing a different online tool to help, AI tool to help prep those. So it's a bit easier to delegate as well. So just to give you an idea on our approach there, very handy for a funding partner to look into this, just given, online presence is going to be so key for generating leads for us, and it has been from the start. Direct marketing out as kind of a more standard land investor operation, where you're having more direct, obviously direct outreach to various land sellers. Unless you're doing PPC, your SEO might not be as critical, but it probably doesn't hurt, because to do this doesn't require that much investment from a dollar perspective or a time perspective to even get started. So if you can start building some SEO, geo content, and develop a real brand presence, it's certainly not going to hurt, regardless of where you operate within the land sphere. Hopefully this one was helpful. Wednesdays in particular, just the way my schedule sorts out, tends to be like my biggest deep work oriented day. I try to get more days during the week, but there's a lot of reactivity as a land funder. So today was, I've had these items on the backlog to get some keyword gen for SEO and geo articles. Trying to knock that out so then I can just immediately delegate it, get it off my plate, and start reaping the rewards. So that was the game plan. I will let you know how some of this turns out, hopefully over the next month or two. With that, if you're looking for funding, seriously.capital. You're looking for zero cost due diligence of your land deals, Land Daily Diligence Facebook group, and landpricer.ai for the most simple and accurate way to price land. I'm meeting with my engineering team in just a few minutes here. I believe the pricing function is fully fixed, and I already started asking a few trusted folks for testing beta here. Can't wait. Subscribe and share. Talk soon. Bye.